medium of information, education, and entertainment in society, as it has access to the grassroots level of any particular society. Different kinds of programs are aired on different kinds of radio stations, but they share the same process of turning an idea into a program. As we have discussed about the different kinds of program formats, it can be an interview, it can be a docudrama, it can be a radio discussion, or whatever may be the program format. Once the theme is decided, once the idea is conceived by a producer of a radio station, etc., based on that a program is being made for the benefit of the listeners. Here, a radio program is generally made keeping in view the listeners' needs. So, a program is conceived by the producer. Generally, a program format is decided, and when you are making a program for the listeners, generally you will have a target group. Before a program is decided, before a theme is conceived, before a idea is conceived by a producer, etc., we have to keep in mind the target group for whom the program is being made, or for whom a program is going to be made for. So keeping in this target group, a message or information is provided in any program format. So it can be an interview or news, it can be a drama, documentary, radio play, or a feature, whatever it may be. It is been generated, it is been created based on the idea which is conceived by a producer. So here the producer is the one. If it is a radio station, he is behind the program, who is someone executing the program for the listeners. So here the producer's role is more important. He is a kind of backbone for the production team. So he is looking after the program from conceiving an idea till it is going to be transmitted for the listeners. Throughout the production process, from the beginning to the end product is delivered, or the story is conveyed for the listeners. The producer's role is very much important. And making a program is not a single person's effort, it is a collaborative effort by the members who are acting as the production team. For example, if it is a radio as a medium, if you are taking into account, there are artists or the radio performers or the RJ who is giving the actual voice or the human voice, what we call. Then there are technicians, if you see, those who are recording the audio program. There are people who are editing the programs called editors. Here, the people who may providing the background music or the sound effects also important. So, if a single program has to be made, there are many people who are working to produce a single program. So, here the producer is the one who is looking after the program from the beginning to the end. Understanding the audience is the first one, most important characteristic of a producer. So here the producer is the one keeping in the various needs of the listeners. He is the one who is generating the ideas. So whatever may be the needs, there are various needs of the individuals which are to be satisfied by the mass media channels. Okay, it can be a radio, it can be a television program, but keeping in view all those needs of the individuals, it can be a information needs, or it can be a educational needs, or it can be a entertainment, etc. So keeping in all these needs of the individuals, you have to produce a program. So understanding the needs of the individual listeners, keeping in mind the needs of the listeners, a program is being made by the producer. The effectiveness or the popularity of a radio station also depends on the kind of programs a radio station is making for the listeners. So, the same way, If a radio station's programs are not so appealing for the listeners, the listeners will switch from one radio station to the another radio station. That is why while providing the programs or the kind of program formats you are maybe making for the listeners, these have to be appealing for the listeners of the radio station. The programs are to create some kind of interest among the listeners so that they will listen to the programs of the particular radio station. So, keeping in view these listeners, a program ideas are generated by the producer. So, producer, how he gets these ideas? So, generally, the ideas must be fresh so that it will appeal the listeners. Okay, so how he can get ideas? So generally a producer, as you know, he is a person who is having knowledge about various issues. A program's ideas may be conceived by the producers based on his own real life experiences, or maybe looking at the society, their problems, or the needs of the other sections of the people, etc. Or he may get ideas while he is reading a book, novel, or a magazine, or maybe when he is watching some kind of television shows or maybe programs transmitted by the different kinds of channels. Right? So here the producer is responsible for conceiving the fresh ideas. So producers is the one who are behind creating the ideas of the programs. The programs are not going to provide some kind of new information, or maybe if it is not going to provide entertainment for the listeners, etc., it will not be reaching the listeners. Okay, that is why a program has to either provide information or education or entertainment for the listeners, so that the listeners will switch on to the radio station and they will listen to the radio programs. Then here the producer is the one who is also, based on the idea which is conceived by him, he is the one who is going to decide the program format of the radio station, whether it is going to be a drama, whether it is going to a radio feature, whether it is going to be an interview or panel discussion, or it can be a format like docudrama, or it is something. So here, based on this idea, the producer is also deciding the program format of the radio station. Then, depending on the idea, he is the one who is going to decide the duration of the program. Based on the idea, he is the one who is also deciding the broadcasting timing for the program. For example, if it is a program which is made for the benefit of the farming community, etc., keeping in view these timings when the farmers are available to listen to this program, the program is going to be transmitted. Okay, here the program format is being decided by the producer, the duration also decided by him, and also the broadcast time. Based on that only a program is made. If it is a radio program, generally the producer also conducts these brief meetings with the persons who are going to be involved during the recording stage of a program. So here he may contact the radio artists or the performers who are going to give their actual voice. Then he also coordinates with the technical staff who are going to be there for the recording of the program. So here he will guide this production team before the actual recording of the radio program takes place, managing the program production. So here, based on the idea which is conceived by the producer, he is the one who is going to decide the script writer. So based on the program format of a radio, he is the one who is choosing a script writer to write the script. In some cases, the producer is also the one who can write a script for the radio program. Then the producer is also deciding the RJs are the radio performers are the presenters who are going to give the actual voice for the program. Then he also see the arrangements which are to be made for the recording. So he has to manage all the logistics which are required for producing a program, which means before the actual recording starts, he is the one who has to take care of the equipment which is needed for the program production, which means like the microphones that RJs or the radio performers are to arrive on the time and day of the radio recording. Then he has to see that on time the equipment arrives and also the people arrive for the recording of the program. As the person who is leading the production team, he has to motivate them and he has to look after the other members to see that the program is recorded on time. While the recording is going on, it is also the responsibility of the producer to see, to listen to the RJ or the uh, radio presenter or the performer, etc. And he listens to them. And if there are any modulations, has to be maintained by the RJs or the radio performer, etc. He has to inform them. Here, the producer will direct them how the words are to be pronounced or how the dialogues are to be delivered by these radio performers, etc. while the program is being recorded. If you are going to use background music which is being provided by music composer, etc., if you are going to use that while the program is edited, then you have to get permission from the music composers and you can use then you can use the music compositions in your program while the actual editing takes place. In the same way, if you are borrowing in sound effects, archived information or archived recordings, etc., if you want to use in your program, etc., then you have to get proper permission from the people who are authorized to give permissions. Then it is also the responsibility of the producer to decide the time and the day of the broadcast of this radio program. Then it is also important that there are some ethical guidelines which are to be followed by a radio producer. There are guidelines which are issued by the MIB, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and also there are laws which are enacted by the parliament of this country. So keeping in view all these laws and media ethics, etc., a program has to be made. And a program has to be made in a standard way, and a program has to meet all the objectives of the concerned radio station. It is the responsibility of the producer to see all those ethics and guidelines are followed while making a program for the listeners. And whatever may be the radio station or maybe the broadcast media, it is important that there are restrictions which are laid down under the Article 922 of the Indian Constitution, where the freedom of speech and expression, there are some restrictions which are made on this freedom of speech and expression, etc. So keeping in all these restrictions, a program has to be made. So, after conceiving the idea after the recording, generally in the third stage of any radio program, program is going to be edited. So, here if it is a television, you will have different tracks which represents the audio and which also represents the visual representation of the program. So, if it is a audio program, generally everything as everything is conveyed in the form of sounds. The sounds will be at different types. As you know, the elements of a radio program, the human voice, sound effects, and also the music. So, in the same way, if a program is edited, the actual voice might be recorded in the radio station, and that is going to be accompanied by the music and also the sound effects. So, the sound effects and music are not added while the program is recorded, but at the editing stage of the radio production, these are added. So there are multiple layers while the radio program is edited, which one may be representing the actual voice, the second one may be representing the music, the third one may be the sound effects. So here the modulations or the volume of all three are to be mixed in a balanced way while the program is edited. For example, if there is a voice, human voice, which is conveying some story, or there is a dialogue or conversation between the characters, etc., then the levels of the human voice will be more, and there is a little background music which is going to be accompanying the conversation. And when there is a need for the sound effects or atmospheric effects or spot effects, etc., then those are to be also added along with the human voice. So here there are various audio tracks. These audio tracks are combined in a way, in a balanced way, so that it will be understandable for the listeners, or which will convey a kind of story for the listener. So here, no one track or the human voice or the background music should dominate each other, which means all these contents are to be equalized to present the story in a pleasant way for the listeners. So, from the beginning, the role of the producer starts conceiving the idea. Then, when it comes to the keeping in view the radio listeners, he has to decide the program format, the duration of the program, the theme of the program. Then, he is the one who is also deciding the program transmission time for the listeners. Then, during the production stage, he is the one who is acting as the listener, who is listening to the RJs or the radio presenters or the radio artists. He can also suggest modulations in the pronunciation of the words, or he may also re-record whenever it is needed. That he also the one who is responsible for providing the logistical support. And when it comes to the equipment, he has to see that the equipment arrives for the recording and they are in good condition for the recording. Then he has to take permissions after the post production stage if he is using the other music which is composed by somebody else, etc., or the sound effects. Then during the editing stage, he is the one who is sitting with the editor of the radio program, and he is looking after the program editing, and so that all these human voice, sound effects, and the background music, etc., are arranged in the right way, or the all these elements of the program are presented in a balanced way to convey a story for the listeners. Okay, in all these areas, it is also important that the producer will have some skills to make a program in a way which is something which is more effectively convey a story for the listener. The radio producer, generally he has to be in the first place a person who will have the skills and also the knowledge. The producer should also have knowledge about the laws which are being enacted by the government or the parliament. Then he has to know the ethical guidelines of the society which are to be followed while making a program. He should also have skills which are needed to run a program without any interruption from the beginning to the end. Then he must have confidence while making the program, while conceiving the ideas till it is going to be aired for the business. A producer is also the one who has to build a good rapport with the other members while getting the information from the people. Generally, a producer also will have to have the skills of editing. Then he should have ability to guide others as the team member or the person who is leading the production team while the recording takes place. Then he should have good knowledge about the current affairs and also general knowledge. Then he should have interest and also the curiosity, and he should have a lively mind, and he should also have ability to grasp information very quickly. The other quality is he has to embrace the new technology, and he has to have strong determination when he is producing a program as a professional producer from the beginning to the end. Then he should have knowledge about the music, and also he should have knowledge about the different kinds of music. He should be also familiar with the different kinds of background music and also the musics which are to be while editing. He should know what kind of music suits the conversation of the human voice. So if he has knowledge only while editing the program, he can guide the editor to add those kind of music while conveying the story. The producer is also sometimes acts as a script writer, so he should also have the ability to act as a script writer, which means he should have a quality to write a script. He also has to ability to lead a production team.